Two heads, one tail, yang yin. Two heads, one tail, yang yin. Two heads, one tail, yang yin. This is the trigram Kun Earth. 3 heads, old yang. 3 heads, old yang. 2 heads, 1 tail, young yin. Our bottom trigram will be read as broken, broken, broken. This is the trigram Kun Earth. Kun is Earth, open to receive and support what comes to her, providing for its full development. She makes inspiration manifest, gives it form, and sustains its growth. Earth is available to be used, ready to lend her strength to the work without limit. She protects and accepts all things in their totality, present and potential, in an unconditional embrace. Earth is Mother, found in the southwest and the harvest time of late summer and early autumn. Our top or outer trigram of our primary hexagram will be read as solid, solid, broken. This is the trigram Dewy, lake or marsh. Dewy is lake and marsh, abundant energy that teems with life. She is the impulse to communicate, share, and exchange, and delights in both inner and outer conversation. She brings things into circulation and gives them voice. This is the sheer enjoyment of participating in life to the full, expressing ourselves and hearing others and satisfying our desires. Lake is the youngest daughter, spirit of the fertile west and of autumn. Dewy, lake, or marsh above Kun Earth gives us the hexagram 45. Once our 4th and 5th lines transform from their old yang selves to their young yin opposites, that will give us another trigram of Kun Earth above Kun Earth for our supporting hexagram. Kun Earth above Kun Earth is hexagram 2. With all broken lines. We'll be getting the titles to our hexagrams from I-ming's Taoist Te Ching, which he wrote in 1796 as a Taoist adept. It's quite alchemical in nature. Our primary hexagram 45, I-ming calls. Gathering, unifying vitality, energy, and spirit. And supporting hexagram 2, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence, a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all, is Earth. One of the 4 timeless hexagrams, pure yin, represents receptivity, submission, humility, obedience, yielding, flexibility, stillness, essence, innate capacity. We will start by reading from Hilary Barrett's I Ching, Walking Your Path, Creating Your Future, which is a nice introductory I Ching commentary. Hexagram 45, Hilary Barrett calls. Gathering. Key questions. What is asked of you? What are you investing in? When we approach the I Ching to consult the oracle, the question we bring to it will always have the general context of how can I act in creative relation with the spirits or forces shaping this moment of time. Oracle. Gathering, creating success. The king enters his temple. Fruitful to see great people. Creating success. Constancy bears fruit. Using great sacrificial animals, good fortune. Fruitful to have a direction to go. The old character for gathering shows people gathered like grass, or perhaps gathered to bring in the harvest. They have a shared identity and invest together for a purpose, looking for what will bear fruit. Sometimes this is an external gathering, sometimes an internal one, collecting yourself and integrating your many roles and strengths, getting yourself together. Many people, roles, energies, and issues are concentrated in this single focal point. The king enters his temple to connect his people with the ancestral spirits. This is a time to strengthen shared roots and understand mundane daily activities as part of a larger story and identity that gives them meaning. With this connection made, it is time to see great people. Originally, this might have meant consulting with diviners to ensure your offerings were made in harmony with the time and the spirits. Seeing great people, whether in the flesh or with your inner vision, gives you long-term guidance to align your efforts with your purpose. Then a steady persistence will bear fruit. And you are making great efforts and an act of faith, investing the best you have in this gathering. You need those good, deep roots and clear-sighted guidance, and you need to know where you are going with it all. Image. Lake higher than the earth, gathering. A noble one sets aside weapons and tools and warns against the unexpected. The reservoir has high earth banks, its water level higher than your home. You can grow more crops, but if it flooded, you would lose everything. Poised between intensity and overload, With so much invested in one place, the noble one takes special care. Inwardly, she is quietly resourceful and prepared for trouble. Outwardly, she communicates the need to stay watchful. Sequence. Gathering follows from hexagram 44, coupling. They meet one another, then they assemble, and so gathering follows. Gathering means assembling. The gathering expands to encompass everything that meets together. Even the untamable, unpredictable forces of change that arrived in hexagram 44 are integrated here. Pair. Gathering forms a pair with hexagram 46 pushing upward. Gathering means assembling, pushing upward means not coming back. Before you can set out single-mindedly towards a chosen goal, you must gather your people and resources. The stronger your purpose, the more you will be willing to invest. The more you invest, the less likely you are to turn back. Investment and aspiration are two sides of a single coin. And our supporting hexagram, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence, a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all, Hilary Barrett calls Earth. Key questions: how are you being guided? How can you lend your strength? Oracle. Earth. From the source, creating success. The constancy of a mare bears fruit. A noble one has a direction to go. At first, confusion. Later, gains a master. Fruitful in the southwest, gaining partners. In the northeast, losing partners. Peaceful constancy brings good fortune. Earth is first described in the same words as the creative force of hexagram 1 because they are partners in the flow of creation. Creation unfolds from the original vital energy, creating success with an ongoing exchange between spirit and daily work, flowing through to fruition. In Earth, through the constancy of a mare. The mare is strong, tireless, and incomparably fast, and she is acutely sensitive to the subtlest cues. When you have a mare's constancy, you will be steadily loyal to the truth and always alert and responsive to guidance. The noble one has a direction to go. She is purposeful. She has a destination in mind. But this doesn't mean she has her route to it already mapped out. And so at first there is confusion. You set out like a pioneer, open to all the possibilities, and find them as many as scattered rice grains. But later, since you have set yourself in motion, you can receive guidance. You gain a master. A master is someone who lights the way. You gain someone or something to be loyal to, where you can find fulfillment and service. Once you have this guiding principle, which may or may not be a person, you begin to follow signs as fluently as the mare. The Zhao people sought out allies in the southwest before venturing into the northeast to face the Shang. There is a balance to be found between joining with like-minded people and following your own calling alone. But gaining allies comes first. Perhaps your individual sense of purpose emerges more strongly when you've learned to work responsibly with others, responsively, like the mare running with the herd. And when you can spread your senses out to roam southwest and northeast without limit, you will be peacefully at home in the whole earth. Image. Power of the land, earth. A noble one with generous character carries all the beings. Through the power of the land, earth is heaven's partner in bringing the world into being. The sun needs a place to shine, rain a place to fall, and seeds need soil to grow in. Flashes of inspiration need space and time to expand and take shape. Great ideas need work to be realized. The power of the land is to provide everything needed for all things to find their shape. A noble one embodies this power in the deep generosity of her character. She certainly need never worry about the limits of her strength. Next, we'll turn to our changing lines 4 and 5 of our primary hexagram. 45, I believe it was. They put a pin in the map to say you are here, or at least here are some places you may find yourself. They take precedence over all other elements and are the most focused part of the reading. Each has its own general context. The general context of line 4 is the capacity for action, asking how the work can be done. And changing line 5, strength and self-determination, clear vision, being in command. Yeah, hexagram 45, gathering, changing line 4. Great good fortune, no mistake. You serve a larger objective and are part of a larger gathering, and you understand that you don't have exclusive responsibility for the outcome. It is good to be free to seek your place in this broader landscape. Your good fortune lies in your direction, at least as much as in where you find yourself now. And changing line 5. Gathering, there is a position, no mistake, no trust at all. From the source, ever-flowing constancy, regrets vanish. You have your place to stand, your responsibility. You even have the initiative. There is nothing wrong with this, yet it feels insecure and uncertain. This is the moment to gather your willpower and make a positive choice to be here. You need to make it yours. Regrets vanish when you flow into the position like water, filling it without compromising your own essence, and show an enthusiasm that carries conviction. We will also turn to I-ming's Taoist I Ching. She wrote in 1796 as a Taoist adept. Hexagram 45, gathering. Gathering is developmental. The king comes to have a shrine. It is beneficial to see a great person. This is developmental. It is beneficial to be correct. It is good to make a great sacrifice. It is beneficial to go somewhere. Explanation. Gathering means assembly. As for the qualities of the hexagram, above is lake, joyful, and below is earth, amenable. When one accords with others, they are joyful, so it is called gathering. This hexagram represents gathering the medicines together. It follows on the previous hexagram, parting. In parting, one parts from mundanity by celestial energy. The path of parting from mundanity is a task to be done after obtaining the elixir. Before the elixir is obtained, if not for the work of gathering together the medicines, the elixir will not form. After people are born, habit estranges them from what is essentially near. They forget the original reality and pursue external artificiality. So their mind and spirit are unstable. Their vitality and energy are dissipated. It is not possible to immediately recover and concentrate the dissipated vitality and energy. It is important to be obedient and act harmoniously, progressing gradually in an orderly manner, not deviating from the process, applying the will single-mindedly, the longer the stronger, so that what was lost may be naturally recovered, what has gone may be restored. This is like a king coming to have a shrine for spirits. Ancestors are people's roots. If they forget their roots, people are disrespectful and inhumane. When the king comes to have a shrine for spirits, this is how to let people know there is a basis to be grateful to. People's original natural reality is like their ancestral roots. When people abandon reality and accept falsehood, that is like forgetting ancestral roots. If people can gather in their spirit and energy, cultivate essence in life, and restore the original natural reality, that is like not forgetting ancestral roots. When the king does not forget ancestral roots, he can unite the hearts of the people in the land. When practitioners of the Tao do not forget the fundamental, they can gather the great medicines of essence and life. But this matter of not forgetting the fundamental requires a great person to carry it out. It cannot be done by lesser people who do not know essence and life. Therefore, it is beneficial to see a great person. This is developmental. A great person is one who corrects self and corrects others. Correcting oneself, there is no ego. Spirit and energy do not dissipate, and rectitude becomes the self. Correcting others, there are no personalities. Character and constitution are sublimated, and rectitude becomes people. Correcting self and correcting others, inwardly thoughts do not arise, and externals do not enter. Inside and out are one single rectitude. Benevolence, justice, courtesy, and knowledge are all based on truthfulness. When the primordial is gathered together, essence is stabilized and life is solidified. Indeed, the benefit of development by gathering what is right is no small matter. What heaven enjoins on humanity is rectitude alone, and it is only by rectitude that humanity can answer heaven. Responding to heaven with rectitude, not forgetting the fundamental, is like making a great sacrifice to offer to heaven. It will not fail to bring about good fortune. But the way to make a great sacrifice and bring about good fortune cannot be accomplished simply by a moment of emptiness. It is necessary to tread the ground of reality step after step before one can achieve it. If you know but do not act on it, it is the same as not knowing. How can you then attain good fortune? So it is beneficial to go somewhere. The value of knowledge is only in its application. We will now turn to our changing lines 4 and 5, which put a pin in the map to say you are here, or at least here are some places you may find yourself. They take precedence over all other elements and are the most focused part of the reading. Each of them have their own general context. The general context of changing line 4 is the capacity for action, asking how the work can be done. The general context of changing line 5 is strength and self-determination, clear vision, being in command. The line of the ruler, or the self, capital self. Changing line 4 of Hexagram 45 gathering. Great fortune, no fault. Explanation. When one is strong yet able to be flexible, with yin and yang in balance, the restored elixir congeals, and the great elixir is within one's purview. Not only can one gather it at will and gain great fortune, one will surely gather it in an utterly impeccable state. This is gathering in the sense of solidifying the restored elixir. And changing line 5. Gathering, there is a state without fault. Not taking oneself seriously. If one is basically always correct, regret will disappear. Explanation. When strength is correctly balanced and higher knowledge unwavering, one stabilizes life in the true state, without cultivation or verification, not needing effort. The 5 elements are one energy. Fundamentally, one is inherently without fault. However, though one is without fault, it is undesirable to dwell on joy, becoming complacent and self-satisfied, trusting what is untrustworthy. Regret is sure to come. But if one knows how to fill the belly and also empty the mind, practices non-doing and incubates the spiritual embryo, ever correct and undivided, using the natural true fire to melt away the residual mundanity of acquired conditioning. Such a one is called a true human without taint. How could regret not vanish? This is gathering in the sense of incubating the spiritual embryo. Each of the 6 lines indicates something being gathered, but they are different in respect to right and wrong, aberration and correctness. When we look for balance of yin and yang and unity of strength and flexibility, we find it only in the yang in the 4th place. As for using emptiness to nurture fulfillment, comprehending life and essence, it seems to be only in yang in the 5th place. It is those who accurately recognize the real who are the adepts. We will also look at the commentary section for each of our hexagrams, which is a little bit more alchemical. 45, gathering, lake above, earth below. Moisture rises onto the earth, gathering. Thus do superior people prepare weapons to guard against the unexpected. Gathering is assembling. Above is lake, below is earth. Moisture rises onto the earth. When moisture is in the earth and rises onto the earth, everything on the earth is nurtured by it and flourishes. But there is a limit to water. It cannot always provide moisture for things. Sometimes things flourish and sometimes they don't. This is the image of gathering. What superior people see in this is that when practitioners of the Tao get to where the 5 elements are assembled and have been returned to the source, when everything acquired is obedient to their will, if they do not know how to prevent danger and take perils into consideration, eventually what has been gathered will again disperse, and they will not be able to avoid the trouble of losing what has been gained. Therefore, superior people prepare weapons to guard against the unexpected. Weapons means the tools of wisdom, the work of silent operation of spiritual awareness. When the primordial has been congealed, it is not subject to injury by acquired conditioning, but it is still necessary to dissolve the influences of personal history before nature and life can be stabilized. If there is any remaining contamination, eventually conditioning will reassert itself and the primordial will again become fragmented. Therefore, this work of guarding is indispensable. If one can prepare the weapons of wisdom to avoid being caught unawares, one will always have autonomous presence of mind, and the jewel of life will not be damaged. After a long time, the 5 elements will merge and sublimate. Body and mind will both be refined, merging with the Tao in reality, becoming eternally incorruptible. So the process of preserving integration is important. And our supporting hexagram 2, Earth, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence, a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. Earth above, earth below. The configuration of earth is receptive. Superior people support others with warmth. Earth is the ground. Its quality is receptivity. In this image, earth is above and below. The earth above is the high places. The earth below is the low places. This is the image of receptivity, the configuration of earth being high and low. What superior people see in this is that since humans are born with the energy of earth, they have this earthy quality of receptivity. Because of this, once their intellect is activated, they misuse intelligence and follow what should not be followed. Obeying the temperament, they lose the essence of pure innocence. Inwardly unable to empty themselves, outwardly they cannot admit others. Taking the artificial to be real, taking misery for pleasure, in the end they pass away. Therefore, the wise take as their model the receptivity of earth and bear others with warmth. Warmth is the quality of receptivity, which is inner openness and outward genuineness. Only by receptivity can one be open. Only by warmth can one be genuine. Inner openness means emptying the mind. By emptying the mind, one can accept others. Outward genuineness means genuine action. By genuine action, one can respond to others. Accepting others and responding to others is being able to support others. There being no end of people, there is no end to support. One becomes warmer the more support one gives, and one is able to be more supportive as one becomes warmer. The ability of superior people to support others means that superior people have the quality of warmth. However, if one is supportive of others in favorable circumstances, but not in adverse circumstances, this is not called warmth. Strong exertion outwardly without inner openness is not called warmth. The warmth that is supportive of others requires genuine practice, true application, bearing insult and attack, bearing all difficulty, hardship, sickness, and calamity, just as the earth bears the mountains, as the ocean takes in the rivers, as the plants and trees endure injury. Such is the warmth of the earth. Such too is the warmth of superior people. This is how the earth bears things and how the superior person bears things too. The work of cultivating one's nature is summed up in warmth. This is the science of taking earth as a model. We will also look at James Dekorne's Gnostic Book of Changes, which I've left links to in the description box below. It just happens to be 4:44 a.m. Our primary hexagram 45, James Dekorne calls gathering together or contraction. He is a practitioner of the Tao himself and has synthesized several I Ching commentaries in one helpful place, which anyone can access. It's a PDF you could even download and print out if you wanted. It didn't get published, but is highly valuable. He puts links in here to things like the Kabbalah and C.G. Jung, and at the end he'll sum everything up in the notes and paraphrases section. Other titles for this hexagram might be gathering together, massing, the symbol of gathering into one, assembling, congregation, gathering, unity, accord, making whole, focusing, marshaling one's forces, clustering, finished, judgment, leg. When forces are gathering, the king goes to his ancestral temple. For successful progress, maintain firm correctness and see the great man. A large sacrifice brings good fortune. Proceed toward your destination. Wilhelm/Baines, gathering together, success. The king approaches his temple. It furthers one to see the great man. This brings success. Perseverance furthers. To bring great offerings creates good fortune. It furthers one to undertake something. Blofeld, gathering together, success. The king approaches the temple. It is advisable to see a great man, which will ensure success. Persistence in a righteous course brings reward. Great sacrifices are offered, good fortune. These were religious sacrifices, but they may be taken to mean that the time has come for us to make important sacrifices of another sort. It is favorable to have in view a goal or destination. Ritzema/Karcher, clustering, growing. The king imagines possessing a temple. Harvesting, visualizing great people. Growing, harvesting trial. Availing of the great. Sacrificial victims significant. Harvesting, possessing directed going. This hexagram describes your situation in terms of collecting and assembling. It emphasizes that bringing people and things together through a common feeling or goal is the adequate way to handle it. The image, leg, a marsh above the earth, the image of contraction. The superior man, in accordance with this, assembles his weapons in readiness for unseen contingencies. Blowfold. This hexagram symbolizes a marshy lake rising above the earth. The superior man gathers together his weapons in order to provide against the unforeseen. This is a time when foresight is required of us, too. We read this in I-ming's Tao Te Ching, but I'll read it here as well. Cleary 1. Moisture rises onto the earth, gathering. Thus do superior people prepare weapons to guard against the unexpected. When practitioners of the Tao get to where the 5 elements are assembled and have been returned to the source, when everything acquired is obedient to their will, if they do not know how to prevent danger and take perils into consideration, eventually what has been gathered will again disperse, and they will not be able to avoid the trouble of losing what has been gained. Weapons means the tools of wisdom, the work of silent operation of spiritual awareness. When the primordial has been congealed, it is not subject to injury by acquired conditioning, but it is still necessary to dissolve the influence of personal history before nature and life can be stabilized. If there is any remaining contamination, eventually conditioning will reassert itself and the primordial will again become fragmented. Therefore, the work of guarding is indispensable. Wu, the marshes above the earth, this is congregation. Thus, the Junsi, or chief son or superior person, causes the nation to be armed in preparation for contingencies. Commentary, Confucius/Leg. Contraction shows massing for union through cheerfulness and obedience. The dynamic line is responded to in his ruling central place, hence the idea of union. With the utmost piety, the king presents his offerings to the spirits in his ancestral temple. Union with the great man is effected through correctness. The law of heaven demands a sacrifice. Contemplation of the way forces are gathered shows us the way of heaven, earth, and all of nature. Leg. Contraction means collecting together, or things so collected. The hexagram deals with the union between the ruler and his ministers, between high and low in the kingdom. This state is to be preserved through the influence of religion and the great man, who is a kind of philosopher king who meets the spirits of his ancestors in the temple. Whatever he does will succeed because he is correct and right, and his great sacrifices are in harmony with the times. The 2 trigrams represent docility and cheerfulness. The dynamic 5th line has his proper magnetic correlate in line 2, which gives the idea of union. Zhang Tzu says that the ordinances of heaven are simply the natural and practical outcome of heavenly principle. A marsh above the earth must be kept in by dikes, so the contraction must be preserved by precautionary measures, the chief of which is to be prepared to resist attack from without and to quell internal rebellion. Notes and paraphrases. Judgment. Forces are assembling for integration. Focus inward, sacrifice your autonomy, and allow the self to guide the work. The superior man pulls himself together to face the unknown and preserve the work. Forewarned is forearmed. Psychologically, contraction depicts a time when inner components of the psyche assemble for recombination into a new pattern. It is significant that this is the time when the king goes to his ancestral temple. That is, the governing intelligence turns towards the template or ideal image of the work as it exists in its consummate state. See commentary on hexagram number 59, expansion, for further discussion of the symbolism of the ancestral temple. If the gathering forces integrate in conformity with this archetype, the work is thereby advanced. A quote from Plotinus: "He, therefore, who perceives himself to associate with God will have himself the similitude of him. And if he passes from himself as an image to the archetype, he will then have the end of his progression. In addition to being a gestalt of future perfection, the temple is the home of the ancestors, a karmic repository of all that has gone into the work via the will and intent of former historical ego personalities. This archetype of the ancestors is described by the Lakota shaman Black Elk in his Great Vision. Note that the grandfathers and grandmothers are present when the people are walking in a sacred manner, i.e., conforming to the ideal archetype, the ideal archetypal pattern of the work. And this is a quote from Black Elk. But I was not the last, for when I looked behind me, there were ghosts of people like a trailing fog as far as I could see. Grandfathers of grandfathers and grandmothers of grandmothers without number. And over these a great voice, the voice that was the South, lived, and I could feel it silent. And as we went, the voice behind me said, "Behold, a good nation walking in a sacred manner in a good land." The ancestral temple then symbolizes the work in progress as it exists outside of temporal awareness. At death, the karmic complexes of the psyche, released from their space-time ego body, assume new configurations in hyperspace in accordance with the accomplishments of the just completed lifetime. Ideally, the ancestors and their heirs, choices and their consequences, within the ancestral temple undergo purification. This is what individuation, the work, is all about. A quote from Terence McKenna in The Archaic Revival. At the end of the dying process, consciousness divides into the consciousness of one's parents and one's children, and then it moves through these modalities, and then divides again. It's moving forward into the future through the people who come after you, and backward into the past through your ancestors. In multidimensional realms beyond our material world, time does not exist. In some way unimaginable to us, past, present, and future are consolidated into an eternal here and now. Thus, our choices in space-time can have consequences in hyperspace which are inconceivable to us in the current situation. So if the self, capital Self, as manifested in the oracle, often seems to be tyrannically unreasonable, it is arguably because of the ego's dimensional myopia. A quote from W.B. Yeats in A Vision. The spirit may know the most violent love and hatred possible, for it can see the remote consequences of the most trivial acts of the living, provided those consequences are part of its future life. In trying to prevent them, it may become one of those frustrators dreaded by certain spirit mediums. It cannot, however, without assistance, affect life in any way except to delay its own rebirth. With that assistance, it can so shape circumstances as to make possible the rebirth of a unique nature. Such conceptions of cause and effect seem irrational to ordinary awareness, yet quantum physicists hypothesize future events which affect the present as well as the past. The idea is not a new one. A quote from Graves and Patia in Hebrew Myths. Indeed, the hero of Hebrew myth is not only profoundly influenced by the deeds, words, and thoughts of his forebears, and aware of his own profound influence on the fate of his descendants, he is equally influenced by the behavior of his descendants and the influence that of his ancestors. Thus King Jeroboam set up a golden calf in Dan, and this sinful act sapped the strength of Abraham when he pursued his enemies into the same district 1,000 years previously. Should the ego's choices and their consequences not conform to the self's intent, a rather cancerous growth is implied in which dynamic and magnetic forces are improperly consolidated. In I Ching terms, dynamic and magnetic are mismatched. Through this infidelity of correlates, the work is thus adulterated and falls short of the archetypal ideal. A quote from Jung in The Phenomenology of the Spirit in Fairy Tales. That the greatest effects come from the smallest causes has become patently clear not only in physics, but in the field of psychological research as well. How often in the critical moments of life, everything hangs on what appears to be a mere nothing. Contraction is a compression inward toward a center. Psychologically, this can be regarded as an integration of complexes. Once the implosion completes itself, it is implied that the growth cycle reverses itself to expand away from the center. Cf. hexagram number 59, expansion, in which the ancestral temple is also mentioned. The following hexagram, pushing upward, is the inverse of this one and depicts a similar upward expansion of energy. The archetypal themes displayed here are those of solve et coagula, implosion, explosion, contraction, expansion, black hole, white hole, day and night of Brahma, etc. Next, we will turn to our supporting hexagram 2, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence, a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. I-ming called it Earth. James Dekorne calls it the magnetic. Other titles might be the receptive, the symbol of Earth, submission, the passive principle, field, the flow, responsive service, yin, natural response, the bearer, judgment, leg. The magnetic means success through the docility of a mare. If the superior man takes the initiative, he goes astray, but if he follows, he finds his proper lord. It is advantageous to find one's friends in the southwest and to lose them in the northeast. Through a passively firm correctness, there will be good fortune. Wilhelm/Baines, the receptive brings about sublime success, furthering through the perseverance of a mare. If the superior man undertakes something and tries to lead, he goes astray. But if he follows, he finds guidance. It is favorable to find friends in the west and south, to forego friends in the east and north. Quiet perseverance brings good fortune. Ritsuma/Karcher, field, spring growing, harvesting, female horses trial, a junsu or chief son or superior person possesses directed going, beforehand delusion, afterwards acquiring, a lord harvesting, western south acquiring partnering, eastern north losing partnering, quiet trial significant. This hexagram describes your situation in terms of the primal structuring power confronted with many forces and obstacles. It emphasizes that giving way in order to serve and yield results, the action of field, is the adequate way to handle it. To be in accord with the time, you are told to yield. The image, leg, the capacity and sustaining power of the earth is shown in the magnetic. The superior man supports men and things with his large virtue. Wilhelm/Baines, the earth's condition is receptive devotion. Thus, the superior man who has breadth of character carries the outer world. Blowfold, this hexagram symbolizes the passivity of the terrestrial forces. The superior man displays the highest virtue by embracing all things. Lu, the earth's condition is that of the receptive. The superior man has the greatness of character to bear with everything in the world. Ritsuma/Karcher, earth potency, field. A junsu, or chief son or superior person, uses munificent actualizing Tao to carry the beings. To actualize Tao is the ability to follow the course traced by the ongoing process of the cosmos, which is linked with acquire, D, that is, acquiring that which makes a being become what it is meant to be. Commentary, Confucius/Leg. All things owe their birth to the great originating capacity of the magnetic. It obediently receives the influences of heaven. Its largeness contains and supports all things, and its capacity matches the unlimited power of the dynamic. Its comprehension is wide, its brilliance great, and through it all things are fully developed. The mare is a creature of the earth with a limitless power to traverse the land. She is mild and docile, with stamina and capacity for work. Such is the path of the superior man. If he takes the initiative, he loses his way. If he follows, he finds it again. In the southwest, he will walk with his own kind. To lose friends in the northeast means he is well rid of them. The passively firm correctness of the superior man imitates the unlimited capacity of the earth. Leg. The same attributes are ascribed to the magnetic as in the former hexagram to the dynamic, but with a difference. The dynamic originates, the magnetic produces, or gives birth to what has been originated. This figure, made of 6 divided lines, symbolizes the idea of subordination and docility. The superior man described here must not take the initiative, and by following he will find his lord, the subject of the dynamic. The firm correctness is analogous to a mare, docile and strong, but a creature for the service of man. That is not the sex of the animal which is paramount is plain from the mention of the superior man and his lord. The superior man will bring his friends with him to serve the ruler. The southwest is the direction proper for the magnetic. The northeast is the direction proper for the trigram of the mountain, hence the direction of obstruction and impasse, the opposite of magnetic receptivity. Thus the injunction to seek friends who are receptive and shun those who are recalcitrant. Concerning the image, Lin Hsi Yuan says, "The superior man in his single person sustains the burden of all under the sky. The common people depend on him for their rest and enjoyment. Birds and beasts and creeping things and the tribes of the vegetable kingdom depend on him for the fulfillment of their destined being. If he be of a narrow mind and cold virtue, how can he help them? Their hope in him would be in vain." Notes and paraphrases. Judgment. The ego bears the burden of the work. Success is found in compliance with the will of the self. The superior man supports the work through its many transformations. In terms of the symbolism of the work, the second hexagram clearly shows the proper role of the ego as one of receptivity to the will of the self. The sexual male-female metaphor must be interpreted as one of polarity. The ego, inhabiting a physical body, is the psychological link which connects the material dimension of space-time with the world of thought where the self resides. To be receptive to the influence of the self is to allow its energy to work through the ego body to attain its purpose. This earth-like receptivity is seen as a feminine quality, as the heavenly dynamic force emanating from the self is seen as masculine. Earth means the body in space-time, and heaven means the realm of thought transcending space-time. The pleroma of the Gnostics, which Jung referred to as the collective unconscious. The concept is also found in the Kabbalah. A quote from P.F. Case in the Book of Tokens: "I am the door of life, the passage from the world of ideas into the world of form. Now as Dalath, the door, I present myself as the portal, through which life, eternal and unbounded, entereth the realm of temporal and limited creation. I am the fruitful womb, whence all creatures have their birth." The message in the judgment clearly indicates the ego's proper role. If the superior man takes the initiative, he goes astray. This is supplemented by the image of a docile mare which uncomplainingly bears its load. Indeed, during certain phases of the work, it becomes painfully obvious that the ego really is just a beast of burden. The self is beyond our full comprehension, and at times it uses us as if we were an expendable tool, which to a certain extent we are. Only by realizing that our existence in space-time consists mostly of illusions, and that the self is the only real thing in our lives, can we come to accept the work as the duty we were created to perform. Suggestions for meditation. Compare the ego-self relationship in hexagrams 1 and 2 with that in hexagrams 7 and 8. We will now turn back to changing lines 4 and 5 of our primary hexagram 45 gathering, which puts a pin in the map to say you are here, or at least here are some places you may find yourself. Takes precedence over all other elements and is the most focused part of the reading. Changing line 4 has the general context, the capacity for action, asking how the work can be done. And changing line 5, strength and self-determination, clear vision, being in command. Hexagram 45, gathering together or contraction, changing line 4. It is interesting to note that we got the only 2 apparently auspicious changing lines in the entire hexagram. Changing line 4, leg. The 4th line dynamic shows its subject in such a state that if he is greatly fortunate, he will receive no blame. Wilhelm/Baines, great good fortune, no blame. This describes a man who gathers people around him in the name of his ruler. Since he is not striving for any special advantages for himself, but is working unselfishly to bring about general unity, his work is crowned with success, and everything becomes as it should be. Lu, great good fortune, no blame, but the position is not correct. Incorrect behavior breeds trouble. Commentary, Confucius/Leg, his position is not the proper one to him. Wilhelm/Baines, for the place demands nothing. Footnote by C.F. Baines. The Chinese text reads literally, the place is not correct. Wilhelm's translation follows suggestions of the Chinese commentators. Blofeld, because the line, though a firm one, is not in the ruling position. Ritzema/Karcher, situation not appropriate indeed. Cleary 2, there is no blame, only if there is great good fortune, because one is out of place. Wu, he is out of place. Leg, line 4 has his correlate in line 1, and he is next to the ruler in line 5. We may expect a good auspice for him. Because he is dynamic in a magnetic place, caution is intimated. Notes and paraphrases. Su. The man rallies the people to the country's service. This brings good fortune to himself, though he does not actively seek it. Wing. In this position, you gather with others to serve a larger goal. Such sacrifice will meet with personal success. Anthony. Sometimes in striving for unity, we find it necessary to go alone, with our acts being misunderstood. However, because we work unselfishly to bring about general unity, our work is ultimately successful. Editor. Note that this line, minus the Confucian commentary, is unambiguously favorable. Line 4 and the ruler above him are the only yang lines in the hexagram, and since the idea of the figure is the focusing of disparate forces for union, we can think of these parallel lines as the hexagram's lenses or focal points. Although dynamic in a magnetic place, if line 4 abides correctly, all will be fortunate. This suggests a kind of passive virtue which attracts devotion, inspires emulation, or draws higher energy into the situation without acting itself. A proper ego-self relationship may be inferred from this. Lu, who usually does not translate the Confucian commentary, here includes it in parentheses. In contrast to the other translators, his personal commentary is negative. Cleary's Confucian commentary rationalizes the seeming anomaly. A quote from Epiphanius in Panorian Hieroseum 26:13. I have come to know myself, and I have collected myself from everywhere, and I have not sown children to the Archon, but have uprooted his roots, and have collected the dispersed members, and I know thee who thou art, for I am of those from above. James Dekorne breaks changing line 4 into 2 possible succinct definitions, A and B. A, you're sitting pretty, don't push your luck. Or B, handsome is as handsome does. All right, line 5. Changing line 5 of hexagram 45, gathering. Leg, the 5th line dynamic shows the union of all under its subject in the place of dignity. There will be no error. If any have no confidence in him, let him see to it that his virtue is great. long continued and firmly correct, and all occasion for repentance will disappear. Wilhelm/Baines, if in gathering together one has position, this brings no blame. If there are some who are not yet sincerely in the work, sublime and enduring perseverance is needed. Then remorse disappears. Blofeld, on account of his high position, he gathers people together, no error. Yet he cannot secure the confidence of the people. Therefore, he should exalt his virtue and prolong his persistence so that he need no longer feel regret. All this is said of a minister. Applied to ourselves, it suggests that we need people's confidence now and should strive hard to deserve it. Ritzema/Karcher, clustering, possessing the situation without fault, in no way conforming, spring, perpetual trial, repenting, extinguished. Slofnacy, in finishing there is position, there is no trouble, it is not a return, prime permanent determination, regret is gone. Cleary 1, gathering there is a state without fault, not taking oneself seriously. If one is basically always correct, regret will disappear. If one knows how to fill the belly and also empty the mind, in Taoist terms, that would be moving the energy from the upper dantian to the lower dantian, kind of similar to the place of the third eye chakra down to, or kind of between there and the root or the crown, and then down to kind of 4 inches below the navel, so somewhere in the sacral, between the sacral and the root. If one knows how to fill the belly and also empty the mind, practices non-doing and incubates the spiritual embryo, ever correct and undivided, using the natural true fire to melt away the residual mundanity of acquired conditioning, such a one is called a true human without taint. How could regret not vanish? This is gathering in the sense of incubating the spiritual embryo. Cleary 2, gathering around the position there is no blame. If those who are not loyal remain ever faithful to their original commitment, regret vanishes. If one just relies on one's position and expects others to gather around, one's aspiration is not yet glorious. Wu, he is in place in congregation and in no error. But lacking the full confidence of his people, he should forever remain persevering to dispel regret. We may consider this line as an amendment to the judgment of the hexagram. An important ingredient of the congregation is moral authority. In its absence or lacking of it, the grandiose show is merely a fanfare. It makes no lasting impression on the people. Commentary, Confucius/Leg, although there is union in the place of dignity, his mind and aim have not yet been brilliantly displayed. Wilhelm/Baines, if in gathering together one has only position, the will does not yet shine forth sufficiently. Blofeld, it is only on account of his high position that he is able to assemble the people. His will is not strong enough to achieve remarkable results from this. Ritzema/Karcher, purpose not yet shining indeed. Cleary 2, one's aspiration is not yet glorious. Wu, his aspirations are not enlightening. Leg, line 5 is dynamic, central, and in his correct position. Through him, there may be expected the full realization of the idea of the hexagram, though the fact that his mind and aim have not yet been brilliantly displayed indicates that some may even still not have confidence in him. Notes and paraphrases. Su, although the people unite under the man's leadership, certain difficulties remain. His aims have not been clearly explained, and his thinking is beyond the comprehension of all. Some followers stay with him because of his influential position. If he remains steadfast in his virtues so far as practically possible, he will eventually dissipate these uncertainties. Wing, the person in this position has a great deal of power and influence within the group. Many attach themselves to him because of this. He must further prove his virtues and qualities of leadership in order to gain the true confidence of the group. In doing so, he can accomplish his aims. Editor, psychologically interpreted, the image depicts forces, unconscious complexes, assembling for integration. Conditions are less than optimum For complete transformation, however, and the concentration of will and intent is required. The outcome may be dubious. If this is the only changing line, the new hexagram created is enthusiasm, with a corresponding line portraying a chronic ailment. The ego's concentration on the task at hand is not as strong as it could be. Sometimes, rarely perhaps, the line can depict a coerced concentration of energy needful to complete a specific task. It goes without saying that compulsory integrations seldom endure. Yet when mandated by the self, such expedients may be necessary. In its most negative sense, this can portray a hostile takeover. A quote from Jung in Aeon. Separation into apparently dissimilar things, such as heaven, the elements, man, etc., was necessary only for the work of generation. Everything separated must be united again in the production of the philosopher's stone, so that the original state of unity shall be restored. But, says Dorn, an alchemist, thou wilt never make from others the one which thou seekest, except first there be made one thing of thyself. James Dekorne breaks changing line 5 down into two possible succinct definitions, A and B. A, you have gathered your forces, yet haven't gained full mastery over them. Unswerving devotion to the work and refusal to yield to temptation should eventually bring success. And B, you can force the issue, but don't expect it to last for long. Nevertheless, this may be necessary in the present circumstances. We will now get a randomly card drawn verse from the Tao Te Ching while I sum up the reading. Our primary hexagram 45 gathering has the idea of a bunch of energies or people gathered into one place, so as to, if we're talking about in terms of inner complexes, for integration and for individuation. So that whole process where disparate elements within our psyche are brought all into one place to be individuated. And the supporting hexagram to Earth, one of the timeless, eternal hexagrams, shows basically the ability of a mare to weather on and be a servant. So the earth supports and sustains everything that comes to it and is the magnetic out of the dynamic and magnetic, or the masculine and the feminine, or the divine masculine, divine feminine, those kind of ideas. It's the second hexagram in the series of hexagrams, and due to its relation with the dynamic hexagram 1, everything else is produced. It is the ground of support that things spring from. Our changing lines 4 and 5 of hexagram 45 gathering were the only auspicious lines. They were the only yang lines in that hexagram. And I want to flip to what Hilary Barrett said about them, and then possibly even I-ming. Hilary Barrett says of our changing line 4, great good fortune, no mistake. You serve a larger objective and are part of a larger gathering, and you understand that you don't have exclusive responsibility for the outcome. It is good to be free to seek your place in this broader landscape. Your good fortune lies in your direction, at least as much as in where you find yourself now. And changing line 5, you have your place to stand, your responsibility. You even have the initiative. There is nothing wrong with this, yet it feels insecure and uncertain. This is the moment to gather your willpower and make a positive choice to be here. You need to make it yours. Regrets vanish when you flow into the position like water, filling it without compromising your own essence, and show an enthusiasm that carries conviction. I-ming says about our changing lines. 4 and 5. For great fortune, no fault. Explanation. When one is strong yet able to be flexible with yin and yang in balance, the restored elixir congeals and the great elixir is within one's purview. Not only can one gather it at will and gain great fortune, one will surely gather it in an utterly impeccable state. This is gathering in the sense of solidifying the restored elixir. And changing line 5. Gathering, there is a state without fault, not taking oneself seriously. If one is basically always correct, regret will disappear. Explanation. When strength is correctly balanced and higher knowledge unwavering, one stabilizes life in the true state. Without cultivation or verification, not needing effort, the 5 elements are one energy. Fundamentally, one is inherently without fault. However, though one is without fault, it is undesirable to dwell on joy, becoming complacent and self-satisfied, trusting what is untrustworthy. Regret is sure to come. But if one knows how to fill the belly and also empty the mind, practices non-doing and incubates the spiritual embryo, moving energy, emptying the mind and filling the belly can be thought of as emptying the energy from the upper dantian down into the lower dantian, or from the third eye chakra down into like the sacral chakra area. But if one knows how to fill the belly and also empty the mind, practices non-doing and incubates the spiritual embryo, ever correct and undivided, using the natural true fire to melt away the residual mundanity of acquired conditioning, such a one is called a true human without taint. How could regret not vanish? This is gathering in the sense of incubating the spiritual embryo. Also, I wanted to turn quickly to James Dekorne. He said of our changing lines 4 and 5. 4, A, you're sitting pretty, don't push your luck. And B, handsome is as handsome does. Not sure what that means. And then changing line 5, A, he says, you have gathered your forces, yet haven't gained full mastery over them. Unswerving devotion to the work and refusal to yield to temptation should eventually bring success. And B, you can force the issue, but don't expect it to last for long. Nevertheless, this may be necessary in the present circumstances. I'm reading a quote right now from Epiphanius in Panarion Hariasium. Don't know how to say that. I have come to know myself, and I have collected myself from everywhere, and I have not sown children to the Archon, but have uprooted his roots, and have collected the dispersed members, and I know thee who thou art, for I am of those from above. This reading has some serious power to it that I don't know how to fully comprehend, I'll be honest with you, but the general feel of it is that of gathering all components of a whole into one place for mutual fulfillment and for the goal of the work to come about. And in our supporting hexagram, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence, a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all, Earth, hexagram 2, shows a space where that process can take place and it can flourish in like planting seeds into the earth. So it's like creating a garden, I suppose. You're taking all the different things, and I suppose even weeds will probably be in the mixture, but you're creating a space for individuation to progress. And the changing lines showed that correctness and flexibility within firmness and firmness within flexibility were all essential to that process. And that the ruler in line 5, or the place of the sage or the higher self, has banded together all these different component parts of the psyche or other people that may not all seem like they have a common link. And it shows that the ruler can't rely on his position alone, that there are still parts that this could just be a time where just for a short period of time, things coalesce into one smooth stream of focused willpower and intent, and that all the different parts are joined together for a short period of time or a short burst of energy. But the idea of the sage or the great person maintaining correct direction and action is something that over time will keep things going and keep all of the different disparate elements of the psyche in favor of doing the will of the self. So I suppose the real clutch part of this reading is to understand and do the work, and to be correct, and to do the correct thing according to the correct time for that thing to be done. One of the things it actually said, which would help back in the day, and I suppose even today, we have diviners, right, that or oracles that would help someone act in accordance with the time. And that's why the I Ching is rolled or consulted. So everything according to the time and everything in correct action will further the work. And we can be confident that all of the elements that we need are available. We have with gathering, and we can be confident that a space has been afforded us to have this process take place in with our supporting hexagram to Earth that will support and nurture it. And yet, if we hope to have this be more than just a short burst of energy in our direction of following the self. Also, one of the things it said in one of the changing lines, I think it was the 4th one, was that he doesn't lead, he follows. So that also is important. So it's not just the idea of someone just going after whatever they want and being excited about all this extra energy by all the components of a psyche or groups, members in a group being on board, so to speak. Can't count on that lasting long if there's not firm correctness and a following through of the right course of action at the right time for that action to take place. So that following is necessary to follow the will of the self and get more than just a burst of energy, but hopefully have that be how things go from then on, and can be something that helps stabilize support and consensus amongst a bunch of people, or amongst just your different parts of your psyche. So we all know that it's not only that you have different parts of yourself, you act differently in different situations all the time with different people, and different parts of yourself come out. And so not only that, people can have internal arguments when you're deciding something and you're going between this and that. That shows that there's this part of you that is in favor of this, there's this part of you that's in favor of that. And in this situation, we're taking all of that into one area and guiding it into one direction, and that direction needs to be towards the will of the self, otherwise it won't last long, if that makes sense. So I already had one fall out. This is 46. We will read the verse 46 from the Tao Te Ching. My copy is by Jia Fu Fang and Jane English. Chapter 46 of the Tao Te Ching. When the Tao is present in the universe, the horses haul manure. When the Tao is absent from the universe, war horses are bred outside the city. There is no greater sin than desire, no greater curse than discontent, no greater misfortune than wanting something for oneself. Therefore, he who knows that enough is enough will always have enough. Surprisingly, that's the first time I've dropped one all the way.